Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to the Interstate 69 Motorsports YouTube channel. Just like last time, guys, if you haven't already seen the video comparing the Turbo R and the Pro R racers, go ahead and click the link up above. But today we're going to be comparing two more comparable models. We've got our Ranger XD 1500 Premium, and then we've also got our Polaris Xpedition XP in the Ultimate trim level. So again, guys, just like last time, we're going to try and decide or help you decide what machine is right for you. So, like I said before, we do have the all-new Ranger XD 1500 here. So if you guys aren't familiar with this model, this is a complete redesign and complete new model for the Ranger platform from Polaris. And if you guys are wanting a more specific or more in-depth walk around, we do have one posted on our channel. You can click the link up above and view that as well. But today we're going to be comparing the XD 1500 over here to our 2024 Xpedition XP. And again, guys, this is going to be a completely new machine from Polaris for the 2024 model year. And let's go ahead and dive on into some of the features that both of these machines share. So I'll get down here low with you guys. So the Xpedition is going to have a front hoop bumper here, while the XD 1500 is going to have a little bit larger front bumper with a little bit more coverage off to the sides. But if we jump back over to our Xpedition here, we can see that it does have a 4,500 pound winch, and most of that is going to be attributed to the Ultimate package on this machine. So it does have the wireless remote and the auto stop capability. But if that is a deal breaker for you guys, don't worry, there is an option to add on a winch to the XD 1500. But let me move back here and talk about another difference between these machines up front. So we do have our tire sizes here. So the XD 1500 is going to come on 29-inch tires, while our Xpedition is going to be on 30-inch tires. And both of these are going to be a 5-lug pattern, with the Xpedition having 15-inch wheels and the XD 1500 having 14-inch wheels. Now, while we're still up front, let's go ahead and move on to our suspension on both machines. So if you guys can notice, the Xpedition does have a little bit smaller springs than the XD 1500, and that's mainly for the purpose of what the XD 1500 was built for, which we'll get into a little bit later in the video. But talking about suspension, one of the big things, or two of the big things that most people always talk about, is going to be ground clearance and suspension travel. So the Xpedition is going to have 14 inches of ground clearance along with 15 inches of travel out of the shocks, while the XD 1500 is going to have 15 inches of ground clearance and only 12 inches of travel out of the shocks. And the reason why the suspension, ground clearance, and travel make a difference is, of course, for off-roading capabilities. So the Ranger is going to be geared more towards, or a little bit more towards, a workhorse. It's going to have a little bit less travel than the Xpedition, but that does not mean that the XD is any slouch when it comes to being off-road. But with all that said, guys, let's go ahead and dive on into our Xpedition and see some of the features it has and compare them to the XD 1500. All right, everybody. So we can see we're sitting in the Xpedition here, and let's go ahead and talk about the first thing that's in front of us, and that's going to be the steering wheel. So the steering wheel in the Xpedition is tilt and telescopic. So not only does it go up and down, but you can pull it out or push it away from you. And then moving on over, we do have a ride command console. So the big thing with the ride command console is that you can see other sets of gauges or have the gauges in your center console rather than over here just in front of you. You can pull up your maps and link with other riders who have the ride command, as well as you can hook the machine up to your phone and play audio through the JBL sound system through your phone, or you can hook to regular AM FM radio as well. And then another feature here the Xpedition is going to have is the drive modes. So you have comfort, standard, and sport. That's going to change the throttle response and really make the machine set up to you or what you plan on doing with it. It makes it a little bit more versatile. But talking about those features, let's go ahead and jump over to our XD 1500 and see what it has to offer in terms of creature comforts. All right, guys, so we're over here in the XD 1500. So just like our Xpedition, let's go ahead and talk about our steering wheel here. So with the XD 1500, you do get just a tilt steering wheel, so you do not get telescopic ability. So you just basically can tilt it up and down. But to combat that, we do have an adjustable seat base, as well as the Xpedition having the adjustable seat base. But let's go ahead and move over to our center console here. So we do not have any ride command or audio. But again, guys, like a lot of these things the Xpedition might have over the XD is a lot of stuff that can be added later down the road. But we were trying to keep comparing the machines, in a factory to factory or oranges to oranges, however you guys like to look at it. But let's go ahead and talk about our drive modes. So, of course, if you remember on the Xpedition, you could change the throttle response. But on the XD 1500, it does take it a little bit further than that. So being that this machine does have the steel belt transmission, which we will talk a little bit more about later when we jump into the drivetrain, you can change between comfort, standard, and sport mode on the XD 1500. And other than just changing your throttle response, it actually will alter how the transmission goes through the gears or basically drives the machine. So you know, if you're in comfort, it's going to be a little bit more lax, a little bit more lazy, while if you kick it up in the sport, it's going to be really high RPMs, and it's going to allow the machine to put a lot of power down. But that's just a couple of the differences. But both of these machines are very comfortable to sit in. So with our Ranger here, we do have you know, good bolstering on the side, as well as the upper part of the seat. It is a bench seat all the way across, so there is no center console here, but our center console does fold down. So you do have a spot to put your arm and rest, but you can carry an extra passenger up front, you know, versus the Xpedition where you can only carry 2 passengers up front. You can fold this up. We do have cup holders down low here as well as up top. And then our passenger seat here does fold up. So basically, if we take and pull this machine like that, we can see that we can pull it up, and we do have some storage up under here. And then we also have storage in our dash as well as below our dash right here. We have a lot of storage options in the Ranger. But let's go ahead and jump back over to the Xpedition and kind of talk about the seats and storage on it. All right, everybody, so we can see we are here in our Xpedition. If you guys haven't noticed already by looking at the machines, the Xpeditions do come with half doors, whereas the XD1500s do not. But if we want to go ahead and talk about our seats and a little bit of storage here in the Xpedition, the seats do place you a little bit more in a more relaxed position and a little bit further away from the front of the vehicle, so it's a little bit more comfortable if you're going to be riding in this machine all day, which is kind of what this machine is intended for, so it makes sense. But with the storage, we do have our glove box here with a 12-volt port and USB ports. We also have cup holders and a little bit of storage here in the dash as well as up under this way. And then these seats do not lift up, but we do have an adjustable driver base seat over here. And then last thing kind of want to talk about, a couple of the differences on the inside is that the Xpedition does have a traditional shifter. So if you guys have ever had a Polaris machine before, you do know the typical park, reverse, neutral, low, high, or a typical belt machine is going to have all those options. But let's go ahead and jump on over to the XD and see how it kind of varies. All right, everybody, so back over here to the XD1500 again to talk about the shifter. So we did see that the Xpedition had a typical CVT style transmission. Now the XD1500 does have a steel belt, so a lot of people may assume that's still kind of a belt transmission, but it's a little bit different style. It's more of an automotive styling transmission. And basically how this machine works is you have park, reverse, and drive. And there is still a neutral, it's just not on your shifter column here. It's actually down low. But basically if you put the machine in park and go to drive, the machine is going to drive a little bit different than what you're used to if you come from a belt-driven machine. So the machine is going to be a lot smoother, and it's, as well as going to have a hill assist. So if you stop on the side of a hill and let off, the machine shouldn't roll back, as well as having a little bit of a creep feature, depending on what drive mode you're in. So if you let off of the brake, it should creep forward just a little bit. So it's a little bit difference on the drivability of these machines. But let's go ahead and hop in the back seat of the XD and kind of talk about it, and then we can talk about the comfort and the rear seats on the Xpedition. So we're at the back of our XD1500. So of course this is where your rear passengers are going to sit, or if you store anything else back here, you have the option for it. As well, just like up front, we do have a center console that folds down, so if you're just carrying 2 passengers in the rear, they do still have a spot to put their cups and their arms. And we also have cup holders down here, as well as a 12-volt plug and some accessory outlets if you have any accessories that you want to run to the back and operate off there. But other than that, guys, you know, the seats are still almost identical to the front. It's basically like they just copied the front, moved it back. You do get the headrest in the rear, just not the front. So that's a little bit different on that, but let's go ahead and dive into the Xpedition and see how it's different. All right, guys, welcome to the Xpedition. So here in the XP, you can actually take your rear seats and fold them up. I know that's something a lot of people may ask about this, but you do get a lot of storage here in the rear. But if we go ahead and let these down, we can see that they are very similar to the XD1500 seats as far as how they're shaped and everything. If you will notice, there is no center console lets down. So if you have just 2 people back here, you're not going to have, you know, basically a spot to put your arms. So, you know, it's kind of different. But with our cup holders here, again, talking about the storage, if you wanted to put something here in the back of the XP, these are removable. So basically you can take and just pull up on these and they will come out. And you do have a nice little grab bar here for the passengers. But with all that being said, guys, let's go ahead and jump into the meat and potatoes of everything. And that's going to be the beds and the powertrains of these machines. All right, everybody. So here we are at the bed of the Xpedition. So one thing you will notice that the bed on the Xpedition is going to be a lot smaller than the XD1500. And it's going to have a lot smaller capacity. So the bed in the XP on the Xpedition can only carry about 600 pounds. So that's going to be a lot less, and you'll notice it when we jump over to the XD1500. But let's go ahead and get this bed up. So both machines will have a dump bed, a hydraulic dump bed. But if we kind of get down low here, we can see just a little bit of the engine. So our clutch and belt cover and everything's still going to be right here on the side, and you'll notice that the XD won't have that. We'll talk about that more in a little bit in a second. But as far as the engine goes with the Xpedition, we are going to have a 114 horse 2-cylinder engine in the XP, and the clutching and everything is going to be really similar to the all-new Razor 1000. If you guys are interested in the Razors, we do have a video on those up above as well. But let's go ahead and jump over to the XD and really see how it compares to the Xpedition. All right, guys, so back here at the XD 1500, we can tell the bed is going to be substantially larger than the XP or the Xpedition. So checking it out, this XD will haul 1,500 pounds in the bed, so that's quite a bit. And mainly the big difference why I keep bringing up the payloads is really kind of show what these machines are really built for. They can be multi-purpose machines, but it's a good fact to know that the Rangers are built for an extreme duty or somebody who's doing a lot of work with these machines. But it's still important to remember that these machines can be multi-purpose and trail-ridden as well. But let's go ahead and raise this bed up. That way you guys can get an idea of how large it is, as well as talk about the Lock and Ride Max. So if you guys aren't familiar, the Lock and Ride Max is a new program basically from Polaris where they release a huge lineup of accessories that fit in these Lock and Ride Max channels. And so there's a ton of accessories, guys. There's over hundreds already out and already available. And this Lock and Ride Max rail does come on the Xpeditions as well. So pretty much any accessory that works for the Ranger XD 1500 will work for the Xpedition as well. But let's go ahead and jump to the engine. That's a lot of engine right there, guys. And that's because this XD 1500 is going to be a 3-cylinder. So this is basically a 1498cc 3-cylinder ProStar engine. But this machine is going to have 110 horsepower, but also 105 foot-pound of torque. And the reason why that torque number kind of matters is because this machine has a towing capacity of 3,500 pounds. So that's quite a bit if you guys aren't keeping up with the UTV side of side-by-sides. So it's actually the most out of any Ranger that's been released to date. So that's really awesome. As well as, I know you guys can't really see it, but that transmission with the STEELDRIVE belt is going to be tucked up in front of the engine. But don't worry, I know a lot of you guys kind of ask about serviceability on certain things like this. There's a plate in the skid plate you can drop and service the transmission. So don't worry, you're taken care of there. But everything on the engine is super easy to access, super available right there. And guys, these things are absolute tanks. They sound pretty cool. And you guys, again, another shot here at the shocks. You can see how much larger they are. Again, that has to do with the carrying capacity and towing capacity on these machines. But other than that, guys, let's go ahead and jump back up front and see if we can find what machine's right for you. All right, everybody, if you've liked the video so far, make sure to leave a like down below and click that subscribe button. Leave us a comment. Tell us how we're doing. Better be a good comment. But anyway, guys, let's go ahead and dive on into what machine we think would be best for you. So starting with our Xpedition, the Xpedition is going to be a machine that's more geared towards somebody who's going to be riding every weekend or going on really long camping trips, going and riding a lot, spending a lot of time in the machine, doing more of a recreational style of riding. And mainly that is just focused on the extended fuel range. So these things do have a fuel range of over 200 miles in one fill up, and just the overall comfort in the cabin, whether that be the ride command system or just how the seats sit. It's a little bit more comfortable for an all-day ride, but I do want to say that does not mean that you cannot take your XD 1500 and take the family out and go hit the trails all weekend. That's not what I'm saying at all. These machines are still super comfortable. It's just more of the features and more of the things that you would be looking for in a Ranger are found on this machine. So that just means somebody who's going to be working a lot out of the machine. So this would be a perfect dual purpose rig. So if you guys are somebody who's going to be using this a lot, either whether it's hunting or out working on the farm and really putting the machine to work, and then load up the family and take them riding, you have that option as well. But like I said, guys, these machines are very similar in price point. And if you guys want to know I-69's price, you guys can go ahead and give us a call at 731-885-1792 or visit us on our website at i69motorsports.com. And it's important to note, I know you guys may not be a huge fan of the Army Green. The Xpedition does come in a matte heavy metal, while the XD 1500 Premium does only come in this turbo silver. So I know that's kind of a big deciding factor for people, but if color's not your style or if you want to change some things up, we do offer in-house powder coating here at I-69, and we can tie it all in with our best financing options in the country. But if you guys have any other questions or anything, leave them down in the comments below, and we hope to catch you on the next one.